I entered the palace at the age of 30. On our first night together, I scared the emperor so badly he ran away in terror. After that, I immediately gave up any thoughts of competing for favor. I spent my days strolling around, admiring birds, and basically started my retirement life early. Little did I know the emperor wasn't having it. One day he cornered me against the wall, eyes red, and asked in a choked voice, "Big sister, do you really not feel even the slightest bit of attraction toward me?" Everyone in the capital knew that the prime minister's eldest daughter was an old spinster nobody wanted. It wasn't because I was ugly. It was because my family background was terrifyingly powerful, and I had more than enough beauty, so my standards were through the roof. I looked down on the top scholar for being too bookish and lacking any real manliness. I thought the young general, who returned victorious, was too rough-looking and boring. The heir of another noble house was funny and charming, but unfortunately his face didn't meet my standards. So I kept being picky until I turned 25. All the other young ladies my age already had kids old enough to go buy soy sauce for their moms, while I was still single as hell. That year, the new emperor ascended the throne and held a grand selection for concubines. My dad gritted his teeth and decided to ship me off to the palace. He figured he had served the court loyally his whole life, so the emperor could at least feed one extra mouth. His useless daughter. To that kind of thinking, I could only say, "Dad, are you trying to get our whole family wiped out like in those novels?" The emperor just turned 20. If I'd been born a few years earlier, I could have been his mom. But Dad didn't care. He stuffed the Ministry of Internal Affairs with so much silver that they finally let me in. The night before I entered the palace, my mom mysteriously handed me a small bundle and told me to open it only after I was inside. All the other selected girls were fresh, delicate 15 to 16-year-olds. I had even babysat some of them when they were little. Life really is unfair. Thanks to Dad's money magic, I breezed through the selection with a snap of my fingers. While standing in line with the other girls, I heard plenty of whispering about me. At most they said my skin was wrinkled, and I looked old and dried up. Because of my age, my once arrogant and wild personality had mellowed out quite a bit. A few years ago I would have torn their mouths apart. Now I just smiled calmly and asked, "Is there a problem?" The pretty girl at the front of the line raised her eyebrows. "Ma'am, aren't you in the wrong place?" Calling me ma'am? Did I look like I snuck in through the back door? This little brat actually dared to offend me. She either had an insanely powerful family, or she was just stupid. Either way, no one was bigger than my dad, the current prime minister. So I just kept smiling at her kindly. My father is the current prime minister. Reputation on the streets is something you have to build yourself. Dad worked his ass off to climb to the top of the civil and military officials. If I didn't show it off a little, I'd be doing him a disservice. Sure enough, the girls shut up immediately. Only that little brat muttered under her breath, "Having a powerful dad sure is nice." I gave her a deep look and became even more determined. In the harem I could lie flat and do nothing. But I absolutely could not let this girl climb on my head. That would be too humiliating for both me and my dad. The main reason I dared to enter the palace to retire comfortably wasn't just my dad's power. My childhood bestie, Kai Huindong, was the current Empress Dowager. We'd been thick as thieves since we were kids running around naked in the rain. Kai Huindong was extremely ambitious and capable. She entered the palace at 16, struggled for 10 years, and actually climbed all the way to Empress Dowager. The new emperor was busy with a mountain of state affairs, so the entire concubine selection fell into her hands. I followed the group of selected girls into the main hall. The moment Kai Huindong saw my face, she spit out her tea. All the servants nearly had a heart attack. I just grinned and raised an eyebrow at her. "TSK, you really are an Empress Dowager now." She quickly regained her dignified appearance. Her phoenix eyes lifted slightly as her jade-like finger pointed at several exceptionally beautiful and well-connected girls, granting them titles. When her finger finally pointed at me, she paused, then asked hesitantly, "Miss Shen, would being conferred as a glaring, precious consort be acceptable?" I nodded enthusiastically. As expected, my bestie never let me down. After the conferment, I was given the Spring Flower Palace. The girl sharing the palace with me was named Toucan. She had a good personality, a round face like a little steamed bun, and blushed at the drop of a hat. Most importantly, she kept saying I looked like an 18-year-old girl. What a sweet, discerning child. I suddenly found her very lovable. It wasn't until late that night that I remembered the bundle my mom gave me. I opened it, full of romance novels. The more I read, the weirder it felt. I only got halfway through the first one before it ended. Why did mom only give me the first volume? On the fourth day, after entering the palace, the eunuchs carried 2 cam off for her night with the emperor. She was crying and clinging to my hand, saying she didn't want to go. When they brought her back the next morning, her face was glowing with happiness. No matter what I asked, she just smiled like an idiot. Ugh, such an innocent child. But I was secretly curious. Maybe it was because I was older. Looks like this emperor knew what he was doing and worked hard. A few days later, the same eunuchs came again. The emperor had flipped my name tablet. The eunuch looked at me hesitantly and double-checked. You are noble consort Shen, right? I nodded and told him to hurry up before the emperor got impatient. Even on the way there, he still looked worried, like he was afraid they'd gotten the wrong person. Ask one more time, and it's rude, I warned. After the eunuch left, I obediently lay down on the bed to wait. Soon I heard the door open. The emperor pushed it open and stood frozen in front of my bed. Seeing him standing there like a statue for so long, I lost patience, sat up abruptly, and met the face of a beautiful young man. Oh my god, even more handsome than the male leads in the novels. In that moment, I was incredibly grateful for my dad's wisdom. This emperor's face was exactly my type. Startled by my sudden movement, he jumped back several steps. Jigiren. I replied in a soft, coquettish voice, your concubine is here. Lu swallowed hard. He really was gorgeous, oval face, willow leaf eyebrows, the perfect seductive beauty type. Since he was inexperienced, his face quickly turned bright red all the way to his ears. He was still just a boy, who had recently grown up. I walked over, slowly wrapped my arms around his neck. But the next second the emperor suddenly pushed me away. I'm sorry. Then he panicked, and ran away, as fast as he could. There were 23 beauties selected this time. When we went to pay respects to the Empress Dowager, I secretly glanced around. So many beautiful girls, the emperor was truly blessed. After the Empress Dowager finished lecturing, all the concubines obediently withdrew. Once everyone was gone, Kai Huindong immediately grabbed my hand. So, how was last night? I specifically told the Ministry of Internal Affairs to take good care of you. Tell me, isn't my son handsome? When the late emperor told me to pick a son to adopt, I took one look at Nakni, a soft, white, pink little bun, and fell in love immediately. How did he do? I sighed. He's still too young and inexperienced. Kai Huindong's face changed drastically, as if she'd been struck by lightning. How is that possible? How is that possible? I felt a bit uneasy, but didn't think too much of it. I just assumed she was disappointed he hadn't consummated the marriage. I patted her shoulder lightly. It's no big deal. He's still young. Totally normal. Her expression grew even worse. Someone come. Prepare the carriage for the imperial study. The new emperor had just ascended the throne, so he was extremely busy. He only visited the harem a handful of times a month. With 23 concubines, only 8 had their tablets flipped. Come to think of it, I hadn't seen the emperor for a whole month. I spent my days cracking sunflower seeds, with 2 cam, and reading novels. Life was pretty comfortable. Kai Huindong seemed even more anxious than me. She sighed and groaned all day. When I asked what was wrong, she grabbed my hand and cried. She had always been a crybaby, since we were young. Even after becoming Empress Dowager, she was still the same. She cried like this once. Before when we snuck out to see the new top scholar. She tripped and fell right in front of him. Then cried for 3 whole days saying she was going to swear off love. Only to turn around and fall for the young master of the Ministry of Rites 2 days later. Speaking of that young master, I saw him again 2 years ago. He wasn't even 30 yet and was already balding. The top scholar didn't bald, but he got fat in middle age. Thinking about the emperor's strong waist, I secretly sighed. Youth really is the best. While I was lost in thought, Kai Huindong started tugging my sleeve and sobbing again. Why is my fate so bitter, Chi? What the hell? Where am I suffering? What did you do to me this time? She sat up straight, with a serious face and promised. Chi, don't worry. I will definitely give you a proper explanation for this. What are you talking about? She just gave me a mysterious smile. Could it be that she finally came to her senses and was going to give me 2 handsome male pets? No male pets arrived. Instead, Emperor Tu Vu stormed in furiously. He had a handsome, youthful face full of vigor. But right now his expression was terrifying. What a waste of such a good-looking face. The moment he entered, Tu Kem trembled in fear and shrank back like a scared quail. Normally she'd be drooling over, Your Majesty. But now that he was here she didn't dare approach. Kids these days. I straightened my clothes and gracefully greeted him. This is what a noble lady should look like. Tu Vu dismissed the greeting with a dark face. What exactly did you say to the Empress Dowager? I looked innocent. I didn't say anything. He rubbed his forehead in frustration. Don't bother the Empress Dowager anymore these next few days. Stay in your palace and copy books as punishment. I wanted to argue, but he ignored me and walked away. I shouted pitifully. When you were little I even carried you. You won't even give me face. But the little emperor didn't turn back. Why did I get dragged into their mother-son drama? I had no choice but to accept my fate and copy books. The emperor even sent a mama to watch me. Today was Tu Cam's turn again. She happily carried a stack of books with her. I grabbed her and asked. She said she still had questions about on governing the state from last time, and wanted to discuss it with His Majesty. They talked all night, nothing else, just dry academic discussion. I was shocked. So the Emperor's nightly bedchamber visits were actually all-night philosophy sessions? When my turn came again at the beginning of the month, knowing it meant staying up all night talking, I lost all interest. Before the Emperor even arrived, I took off my shoes and socks, climbed into bed, and went to sleep. I didn't want to be dragged into another all-night lecture. But just as I was dozing off, the sound of the door opening startled me awake. I sat up groggily and met the Emperor's eyes. They were wet and puppy-like, making me want to pet him. Shen Nam Chi, what the hell are you thinking? That's Kai Huindong's adopted son. Looks like noble consort Shen has been living quite comfortably lately, he said, with a bad expression. I quickly got off the bed and saluted. It's all thanks to your Majesty's blessing. Oh really? But I haven't been living well at all lately. I really wanted to ask what that had to do with me. But keeping my mouth shut seemed wiser. I heard my performance last time displeased you. Today I'll fulfill your wish, so the harem doesn't spread rumors. Your Majesty is vigorous, and full of dragon spirit. His face turned bright red, unusually so. Years of reading romance novels told me he'd been drugged. And in this harem, the only person who would dare drug the Emperor was one specific person. Kai Huindong, you really are the best bestie ever. Tu Vu pulled me into his arms, stared deeply into my eyes, and called out in a trembling voice. Big sister. Actually, Tu Vu and I had known each other for a long time. Back then he was a frail, neglected prince who was bullied by the other princes every day. When I followed my father into the palace one year, I happened to save him from drowning. He clung to me tightly, trembling like a little kitten, calling me big sister. He held on, as if I were his only lifeline, and refused to let go until sunset. I lied to him that I'd come back to play with him the next day. But I never set foot in the palace again. A minister's daughter secretly meeting with a prince was a serious crime. No matter how willful I was, I still knew my limits. He probably forgot about me long ago. Looking at his face getting closer and closer, I could only close my eyes and accept my fate. The next morning, Kai Huindong happily ran over while I had just woken up. Cam was massaging my sore waist. The Empress Dowager's eyes lit up like headlights. She chased Cam out and eagerly asked how last night went. I carried that kid, and it almost killed my back. I thought I was going to play the role of a domineering CEO being forced into love. Who knew he'd stop, yell for a cold bath? And then no servants came no matter how long we waited. So I just picked him up and threw him straight into the lotus pond. I used too much strength and strained my waist. The early autumn lotus pond water was freezing. Tu Vu stood in the water completely soaked, looking at me with an extremely complicated expression. He didn't say a word, looking exactly like a little puppy abandoned by its owner. Wasn't he the one who asked for cold water? Why the pitiful face now? I squatted on the shore, watched him for a while, then dusted myself off and left. Throwing the Emperor into the lotus pond wasn't a huge deal, but it wasn't small either. Thanks to my dad being the Prime Minister. I heard he got scolded every day at court lately. Poor guy. I hadn't even settled the score about the drugging. Yet when Kai Huindong hugged me and wailed. She had always been like this. When we were 8, I was swinging a big sword, and accidentally chopped off half her hair. She cried for days. She cried when she tripped, when her pet rabbit died, even when I ate one extra piece of her chestnut cake. I never expected that even as Empress Dowager she still cried at the drop of a hat. I rubbed my aching temples. What's wrong with you today? Knock me. Knock me seems to not like women. My eyes widened. How do you know? I only found out a few days ago. All the concubines he called over didn't get intimate with him. At night he'd either lecture them on the 4 books and 5 classics, or discuss politics and philosophy. If the girl wasn't well read, he'd talk until she fell asleep. If she was educated, he'd debate with her until dawn. The concubines came crying to her, saying they never wanted to serve him again. What should we do? How do we fix this? I asked. I jetted my chin toward Cam outside. There's one right there who's dying to go every day. Kai Huindong turned my head back. Chi, in this whole huge harem, the only person I can truly trust is you. Having an heir is a matter of national importance. Her expression became serious. So I have an important task to entrust to you. No way. Absolutely not. Kai Huindong, what the hell are you thinking? You want me to seduce Tu Vu? But you're already his consort now. Still no. If this gets out, how can I show my face anymore? What will our old friends think? They'll call me shameless. He's not my biological son anyway. It's fine. No means no. She started crying again. Chi, you're my only best friend. If you won't help me, what am I supposed to do? How can I face the late emperor when I die? Maybe I should just follow him now and end this suffering. There it is, the guilt trip again. I helplessly pulled her back. Where did you learn these shameless tactics? Fine. But this stays between us. No one else can know. Only then did she leave satisfied, leaving me alone to regret falling for her trap. With Kai Huindong secretly helping, sneaking into Tu Vu's bedchamber was easy. When he walked in, he saw me sitting on the bed, with messy hair. Having deliberately taken out all my hairpins, so my long black hair flowed like in the novels. Later Tu Vu told me he thought a female ghost had crawled onto his bed, and nearly died of fright. It took him a while to realize it was me. Tam Kui Nan, I said shyly, lifting my face. He frowned. Did someone hit you? No. Then why are your cheeks so yellow? My smile almost froze. It's just powder, Your Majesty. He stared for a long time. Don't wear it next time. Your bare face looks better. I forced a stiff smile. It's getting late. Your Majesty should rest early. I'm not sleepy yet. You rest first. Then I'm not sleepy either. I'll stay and attend to you. Little brat, I don't believe you can stay awake all night. Turns out he really could. The next morning he went to court full of energy, while I was carried back, with giant panda eyes. My head was spinning. As soon as I got back to my palace, I heard, "The Empress Dowager has arrived." Kai Huindong came again. Chi, how did it go? Wow, look at those dark circles. I'm exhausted. I'm old, okay? Go find some young girls. Staying up like this will shorten my lifespan. My dad sent me here to retire comfortably, not to suffer like this. Seeing her about to cry again, I suddenly had an idea. Tu Vu stormed into my palace again one sunny afternoon, while I was cracking seeds with Tu Cam. He picked me up with one hand. I looked at Tu Cam for help, but the traitor ran away. Noble consort Shen, your medicine is excellent. These past few days I've been drinking turtle and soft-shell turtle soup non-stop. Your Majesty, they're basically the same thing. Stop changing the subject. What exactly are you trying to do by sending me those tonics? I thought your Majesty seemed tired lately, so I wanted you to nourish your body and quickly produce an heir for the imperial family. Tu Vu laughed angrily. Are you insulting me? Of course not. He leaned in close, lifted my chin, and I shyly turned away. This boy was making me blush like a teenager. Maybe I'd been in the palace too long, and hadn't seen enough men. Shen Nam Chi. What are you doing? He laughed coldly. The next second, I was lifted off the ground. I panicked and started babbling. Your Majesty, I remember when we first met you were still a little potato. I never thought you'd grow this big. Do you remember that day in late spring? You even peed your pants. Shen Nam Chi. He gritted his teeth. I instinctively breathed a sigh of relief, but my chest felt strangely tight. After that, someone in the harem got pregnant. Ta Lanan was with child. When Kai Huindong heard, she shook her head, with a bitter smile. I never expected Nak Mi to like that type of girl. The eldest daughter of Grand Tutor Ta is gentle and virtuous. She glanced at me and stopped talking. Ta Lanan. I had seen her once from afar. She looked like a delicate white lotus that would shatter in the wind. A truly good girl. I didn't expect Tu Vu to come find me again. Nam Chi. I stood up in a panic. Since that day we hadn't seen each other. He still looked like that young man, but there was now a heavy gloom between his brows. He rushed over and hugged me tightly. Nothing happened. Nothing at all. He let go, stood silently in front of me looking like he might break. And after a long time whispered, I hate that you weren't there. Then he turned and left, leaving me standing there in a daze, with a heart that felt strangely squeezed. Before I could even see the imperial physician, trouble came knocking. When Ta Lanan arrived, her belly was already showing. She still looked fragile and delicate. If she hadn't deliberately pulled my hand to push me into her and then jumped into the water herself, I might have actually believed she was a pure, fragile white lotus. Unfortunately, her child couldn't be saved. I got slapped several times by the old mama serving her. Of course I slapped her back. But that old hag was strong as an ox. I regretted skipping martial arts training when I was younger. I had never suffered such humiliation in my life. Kai Huindong arrived just in time. When she saw the red mark on my face, rage exploded in her eyes. I had never seen her like this before. In front of me she was always soft and childish. She stormed into Ta Lanan's palace in fury. Ta was clutching her clothes and sobbing. Kai Huindong slapped her hard. You dared to incite your servants to beat a consort? Who gave you the guts? Do you still see me, the Empress Dowager, in your eyes? This concubine didn't. The old mama only did it, because she felt sorry for me, and for the child I lost. Kai Huindong didn't buy the act. She interrogated her about how the child was really lost. Ta Lanan insisted I pushed her. Very good. You dare lie right in front of me? Do you really think your dirty deeds are flawless? Guards. Drag this audacious woman away, and send her to the cold palace. Ta Lanan's eyes widened in shock. This concubine is innocent. The mamas covered her mouth, and dragged her away. Back in Kai Huindong's palace, she finally exploded. You useless thing. How could you let someone scheme against you like that? The Ta family's status wasn't low, and Grand Tutor Ta had students everywhere. If they made a fuss, it would cause Nakmi a lot of trouble. Whatever, the kid needs to taste some hardship anyway. Wait, so you had no evidence that Ta Ten framed me? With how rushed everything was, where was I supposed to get evidence? I was just scaring her. What if she got scared and confessed? And what if I really was jealous, and pushed her? So what? Even if I beat Ta Lanan to death today, it would still be her fault. We grew up together. I know your personality better than anyone. When I entered the palace I swore that if I ever gained power, I would protect you for the rest of your life. In my eyes, no one is more precious than a single strand of your hair. I trust you. Her words made my nose sting. When Tu Vu heard about the incident, after court, he rushed over angrily. But the first thing he asked was about the injury on my face. Have you put medicine on it? Tu Vu, aren't you mad at me? Why would I blame you? It's all my fault for dragging you into this. As for Ta Lanan, who was still locked up, just keep her there. In the end the matter didn't blow up, as I expected. It turned out the child in Ta Lanan's belly wasn't Tu Vu's. That day he was drunk, and she took advantage of him. He didn't want to damage the imperial family's reputation, and gave face to Grand Tutor Ta, so he temporarily claimed the child. He planned to deal with it quietly later. He never expected Ta Lanan to be so vicious. She was afraid the truth would come out, after the birth, so she came up with this scheme. But she never imagined that Tu Vu had known everything all along, and only stayed silent out of respect for her father. In the end, Ta Lanan was sent back to her family. Rumor had it she went crazy, and kept muttering about wanting to transmigrate back home. I never thought my first palace fight, after entering the harem, would end so anticlimactically. My dad was preparing to retire, and return home. He specially came to the palace to see me one last time. Chi, Dad won't be able to protect you anymore. From now on you'll have to rely on yourself. And stop throwing around your father's name, okay? Dad, take me with you. He refused. He said he wanted to find meaning in life. And bringing me along would just be a burden. So I decided to pursue my own dreams too. I suddenly remembered that mid-autumn banquet. Tu Cam had decorated my hair with jewels and said, if you hadn't entered the palace, you probably would have become an amazing owner of a cosmetics shop. That sentence made me dazed for a while. If I hadn't entered the palace, what would I be doing right now? Maybe sneaking snacks with my nephew. Or secretly pulling the tail of the stray cat at home. Or going to the end of the alley for a bowl of sweet soup, when I felt like it. Dad said I only needed to live safely and happily. I had lived that way for the first half of my life. How should I live the second half? I still needed time to think. Before I could figure it out, Tu Vu came again. Lately he visited my palace extremely often. Whenever tributary states sent interesting toys, he'd happily bring them to show me. When fresh fruit arrived from Jiangnan, he personally delivered it. You're the emperor. Don't you have other things to do? To me, you are the most important thing. Where did this smooth talker learn to speak like that? I lost to you, Chi. That day you said you'd come find me the next day, but you never did. So he still remembered, after all this time. Right now I just want to spend the rest of my life with you as a loving couple. Can you please not abandon me again? His bright eyes made it impossible to refuse. But deep down I thought, looks like I'll end up being one rank lower than Kai Huindong, as a daughter-in-law after all. Still, looking at his clear, moon-like face, I was willing. The day I found out I was pregnant, Tu Bu disbanded the 6 palaces for me. When Tu Cam came to say goodbye, I held her hand and cried. I don't know why, but ever since getting pregnant I'd become much more emotional. We had read so many novels together, and seen every kind of parting scene. I never knew actually saying goodbye would hurt this much. Tu Bu couldn't bear to see me sad, and said, "We can let Tu Cam stay, if you want." The moment she heard that, she yanked her hand away, and ran off, without looking back. This goddess doesn't want to bury her youth in this harem. There are so many handsome young men waiting for me outside. Wow, so confident. I asked Tu Bu if there was any handsome man waiting for me. He narrowed his eyes. Shen Nam Chi, don't even dream about it. When I went into labor it was difficult. I struggled all night, and the baby still wouldn't come. Kai Huindong knelt in the Buddha hall the entire night, chanting sutras and trading all her blessings for my safety. As long as I was safe, that was enough. I remembered when she had her coming-of-age ceremony. I dragged her to the temple. She stood proudly on the stone steps and declared, "Kai Huindong doesn't believe in gods or Buddhas in this life. I only believe in myself." Yet here she was, putting her faith in the divine for me. At dawn, a baby's cry broke the silence of the harem. I safely gave birth to a little princess. Tu Bu named her Fucking, blessing and peace. He only hoped our princess could live a lifetime of happiness, peace, and nobility like an emperor. Fortunately, my whole life turned out exactly like that wish, safe, peaceful, and filled with joy.